G'day, welcome to this WorkflowMax overview tutorial. Now, just keep in mind that this is going to be a very sort of brief overview of how WorkflowMax looks and some basic sort of functionality. If you do want to deep dive into anything further, there is a help center just from here. If you click up to here, there's the help center for anything specific. Or also you can get in touch with us to make something specific in terms of a video for functionality for you. Now, this is the dashboard of WorkflowMax. Now, just obviously as a little bit of a reference point, if you are familiar with Xero, then you're going to be very familiar with the way and the user interface looks compared to that. It's very, very similar. So the dashboard is pretty much going to give you a general rundown of the information related to that particular user. So of course, any time that you've sort of put in this week, and then of course, any jobs and tasks related to this particular user. So from here, I can enter time, which is simply just me adding in, adding in information as far as my timesheet is concerned. This is obviously for things like payroll. And then of course for adding costs on jobs as well. You can do this from a weekly standpoint, and then you can enter a cost as well. Now entering a cost is going to be on a job specific basis, then obviously just entering in the necessary information. Now, of course, you need to add in everything that has the mandatory red star next to it at the very, very least. Now you can actually add a cost create a cost, sorry, that doesn't necessarily need a supplier, but yeah, that's completely fine. Okay, so that's done. Going back to the dashboard, so it also shows me that all of my jobs that are in progress as well. So if I need a quick reference guide to look into my jobs, I can do that. Now we've got the client selection. So basically, this is going to be the place that WorkflowMax is going to store all of your client contact prospect information. So you've got basically you've got your clients, which of course are your companies in question. So if I go into 7-Eleven, for example, you can see it stores all the current client information and pretty much anything that's been put against this particular client in general as well. Obviously, you've got an overdue invoice there too, so I can view into that. And I can then view into the job and then the invoice that's directly related to that particular company. Now, if I jump back, I can also go in and edit this contact as well. So let me just give you let me show you how that currently looks. So you can drop down. Of course, there's a whole lot of different categories that you can select here. Now you can actually add these from the settings page, which I'll show you a bit later on, but you're able to drill down and add all the relevant information. So you can customize obviously your custom fields and that sort of thing as well, which I'll show you later. So you've got a client, and then you've got contacts that are part or joined to specific clients. So Bankwest, for example, you've got this one here, which is joined directly to that. And I have a job that's linked directly to this. And this job is actually directly linked to the client Bankwest as well. So a contact is just someone who's part of that particular business or client. And then groups, as I mentioned before, you can create groups for particular sets of clients if necessary, just another way for you to categorize things. Okay, so the next sort of section is jobs, but I want to sort of skip over this first and go first into the lead into quotes into the job process from there, because that's where you really want to sort of begin things. So if I'm going to create myself a new lead, obviously I can add in, or I can create a prospect or a client at this stage and then add in the template that I want. And then of course, add in the estimated value of that particular lead, and then a category if I wanted to add one as well. Now, if I look into a current existing lead, basically this just provides information about this lead. You can then actually add in some extra activities to as far as this lead is concerned. So if I want to set up, if I've obviously created the lead with how much its estimated value is, I can then set myself an activity to remind me to call this particular lead. Then once this lead or prospect has been converted, or they have come on board, you can actually flick this to 1. Now what that's going to do is it's going to flick the type of client from a prospect to a client. Now what you can also do is you can create quotes that are going to be directly related to this specific lead. And obviously then once that quote has been finalized or accepted, then you can convert that into a job. Now here's an example of a current quote. So you can see here that you've got obviously just that you've got the particular job number that it's been linked to. You've got the client in question. You've got the different work that's going to be completed based on this quote. And then we have options down the bottom here to go through the process of issuing. Now, once we issue and print and that's actually accepted, we can then convert that quote into a job. So let me just show you very quickly what the creation process for that's going to look like. If I go into new, so I go new quote. So we can obviously select the client in question that we'd like to add. We can select the relevant contact if necessary. Now, as you can select the template for this particular type of quote. Now, of course, this is all stuff that you can create yourself on the fly. And then we can obviously choose how much the budget's going to be and the options from there. Now, I'm just going to click next on this one. Now from here we can. This is obviously it's an ASAP store template as far as the job is concerned. So it does automatically add costs and tasks that are going to be related to that. I can then assign I can pretty much can just save this up. Now, as far as this quote created for is concerned, I can then go from here and issue this. Now, as soon as we issue that, it gives us the option to print. Now, of course, this is all based on a template that you can actually customize per your business as you'd like. Now, as soon as that quote's actually been done and printed, I can now go to here and I have the option to either revise or accept or decline. Now, as soon as this quote becomes accepted by the client, I can go to accept it. And now this basically converts the quote directly as it is to a job in your WorkflowMax instance. So then I can basically go through here. I can again apply a specific template to the particular job and then go through and select all of this. So the bill details, all this sort of thing from here can all be customized as per your business requirements. And then of course down the bottom here, you're selecting the staff members that are going to be taking care of this particular job and overseeing this job. So as far as that's concerned, I have all the job information there. I have any particular milestones I want to add. I can now go through here and see all of the tasks that are going to be related to this job. And then of course, costs as well. So I go through here. As far as the job's concerned, I can go through and select and see. I can add timesheet information for a specific job. You've got notes that you want to add if necessary, documents. Now this can be, you can either just add documents directly into here, or you can actually link this with a Google Drive, for example. You've got your costs that have been added in here. Now, of course, based on the template, you've already got some costs that have been added to this particular job. And then your financial, which includes all of your estimated billings and your quotes and that sort of thing. So I can now go into here and I can see that the quote that I have has been accepted and converted into this particular job that we are looking at. So I can now go into here and I can actually print off the quote. And again, we can now see this particular quote that has been converted into a job. Okay. So at any particular point in time, if I wanted to, for example, invoice for this, now hang on, so the job that I just created, okay, so starting today, cool. So the job that I just created, I can actually go through and update it with a progress invoice. So if I wanted to do that, I can go from here, go to the financial tab. I could add myself a progress invoice. Let's say, for example, I wanted to take 20% of the costs as, so like a deposit, for example, just type in deposit here. Next. And that is exactly going to take, just going to calculate the deposit value of this particular invoice. I can now go through and go approve and print. Now, I haven't got this set up to 0, so that's why I've got that information coming through, but I can very, very easily go to here, go to approve, and then I can print the invoice from here. Now, of course, we can just choose the invoice template that we'd like, and then we can see that coming through here. So there's a very sort of clear sort of hierarchy in terms of you've got a lead that you create, you have a prospect that turns into a client, you've got the quote as part of that lead, then it gets converted into a job, and that process is followed from there on. Now, as far as you can also, as part of a job, I can now go into this particular job that I was in just before, and I can actually add a cost to that. So if I needed for any reason to add a cost to this particular job, I can go into edit here. Hang on. Okay. So sorry, I can go to financial and I can add a purchase order from here. And I can choose the supplier that I want to be directly related to that, and I can also assign a particular cost. Now, if these are obviously the costs that are already going to be added as far as that's concerned. Now, what I can do is go to next from here, and I can then add in. It's going to add this particular cost, but I can also add in additional costs from here as well. Now, as soon as again wants to do that, I can go issue and print. Now, this is going to add to that particular job. I can then print off from here as well, and then just see exactly what that particular cost is going to be sent to. Now, once I go back to the job, I can then see under the financials tab that that is going to be included as part of this entire job. Okay. All right. So now, as far as the process is concerned for work in progress, now any particular point in time, I can look into our work in progress view from business work in progress, and I'm able to see exactly what current jobs we have going at this point in time. This just gives us a brief overview, but it's quite good to be able to click into a list and sort of get exactly what is due in terms of that. Now, you'll see things like, obviously you've got work in progress, you've got estimated billings. So this is obviously information or amounts that are still waiting to be paid. So this is still jobs that are in progress and not yet paid. So obviously, if you've got things like this, where you've got your estimated billings as 0, sorry. So that would assume that a job's been completed. So what you can do to tidy this up is just remove these particular jobs from this view. And that then just means that you're only going to be seeing jobs. Okay, hang on. So the draft invoice is pending. So you've got to make sure that we have all those invoices cleared off as well, or approved at the very least. And then we can actually remove those ones as well. But the idea from here is that with this particular work in progress view, you can get a very, very good look at your business in terms of what is still awaiting payment and what work still needs to be done. So just as far as a few more of these are concerned, of course, we've got the suppliers. Now, of course, these are basically suppliers that you can put against any costs related to a specific job. Now, you can have a cost that doesn't necessarily have to have a supplier against it, but it just makes it easier for you to track those costs if you want to be able to do that. So I can look at a specific contact. I can then actually also create a cost that is specific to the supplier if necessary. Timesheets here, if you've got, so this is obviously for your staff members and for payroll, so you can actually reduce access, or you can have access to this particular part and then go in and make sure that these are all correct, and you can export payroll and export to 0 from there. So the subscription is just obviously your plan for WorkflowMax. And then from the settings page here, this is pretty much exactly where you're going to be customizing a lot of the under the hood parts of WorkflowMax. So practice settings, client settings. So basically being able to edit specific parts of your business. Client settings, how you want your clients to appear. You've got obviously business structures and client types, all the sorts of things like that. You can then go into you've got obviously being able to set how your leads come up, how your jobs come up. For example, you've got all of the different sort of types of job categories. You've got states and templates as well. So that's why when you saw me add that ASIP store template before, you saw that I was adding, I had a template specific for that particular type of customer and the tasks, milestones, and costs that were going to be affiliated with that. Okay. And then, of course, you've got your staff, which is, again, just being able to add your staff members and then add their information, add their user permissions. And then you've got your So again, costs is pretty much just managing your costs as you would normally. This is the same sort of thing as just basically going through the costs process. And you of course can create a cost. You can assign that to a specific supplier if need be, and then when you're adding costs to your jobs, you can just select from a drop down rather than having to create them on the fly. Okay, and then if once we go down to the features here, so custom fields and templates. So custom fields, these are things that you're going to be adding specifically to your business, so that when you are creating your jobs and creating all these things, you can create fields specific to your business. So for example, for clients, I wanted to be able to track the currency or how they heard about us, all that sort of stuff. So all this sort of thing is customizable to that extent. Custom templates. So the templates, of course, are your invoicing templates a lot of the time for things like purchase orders, for quotes like you saw before. Now, there is a really good set of sample templates that WorkflowMax has on offer, which you can use and which you can view and have a look at. Obviously, these are going to be in Microsoft Word, which you can obviously then jump into and have a further look at. Now, we can we can actually jump in and assist you with making those for good work for your business. But you can use the base templates and then create them off here as well. Excuse me. Okay, so lastly, we've got a few sort of things. Obviously, the rest of this is relatively self-explanatory. You've got personalization of how you want your your specific sort of WorkflowMax appearance to look. Obviously, this is going to be a good thing for your logo for your business. It's going to appear on all of your PDFs or all of your templates as well. Now, if I go back to the settings is here as well, you can see things like there's obviously your connections to Xero and a few other add-ons. Now, I mentioned document management as well. So that was if you want to store documents within all of your jobs in WorkflowMax directly, you can do so, or alternatively, you can integrate with Dropbox or Google Drive to do that sort of thing here. And then, of course, there's your import and export functionality from here as well. Now, as far as your reports are concerned in WorkflowMax, you have a large number of base reports that are generated, that are created specifically for WorkflowMax itself. So very sort of base reports like this. Now, these can be pretty heavily customized in terms of, well, these base reports are just as they are here from here, but you can then go into the report builder and actually create reports purely for yourself based on whatever information that you would like. So you can see here, for example, there's a client health report that's been created. You can go through and you can create these pretty much exactly to specifications in that case. I can then go through to these. I can also go through to the samples that have had a look as well. That's going to show me these ones from here. Cool. It's just going to say as well. So my report builder. So excellent. Cool. All right. So just to sort of finish up, this is your base overview of WorkflowMax. The last thing from here is obviously this is the user that you've got currently logged in. From the settings from here, you can obviously just change your password, do a few sort of do a couple of user related issue things, obviously email signature, and then obviously log out from there. But I hope that was helpful. If there's anything further that you wanted to look into as far as WorkflowMax was concerned specifically, feel free to give us a bell, or you can go into the help center from here and look into specifically things for WorkflowMax. Cheers.